In this poetry tutorial, I'll be discussing and comparing how Sylvia Plath, Wilfred Owen, and William Blake's bleak worldviews are visible through their poetry and thus affect it. Each had personal experiences that shaped their views and therefore evidently affected their poetry, shown through literary techniques such as symbolism, oxymoron, repetition, and more. To begin with, William Blake and Sylvia Plath's bleak views and negative personal experiences can be seen in their poems London and The Applicant, where the concept of marriage is discussed. In London, Blake uses an oxymoron to describe marriage as a hearse, and by doing so, his own belief that marriage is equivalent to slavery or death is revealed. This belief possibly stems from a marriage proposal of his being rejected and being left heartbroken, or from the fact that his wife couldn't bear children, something he wanted most. Plath's opinion that marriage is a slavery of sorts is also shown to the audience within her poetry, in particular The Applicant. In the last stanza, she repeatedly uses the word it to describe a wife, creating a dehumanizing effect and showing that the woman in a marriage is nothing more than an object. This is further supported when Plath states that the wife will do whatever you tell it, reinforcing her opinion that for women, marriage is like slavery. These ideas are influenced by both Plath's marriage to Ted Hughes, which was known to be traumatic, and her personal feminist views on how women are treated in a marriage and how they should be. Even though Sylvia Plath and William Blake's beliefs about marriage are discussed from different points of view, they were both built on their personal experience within a marriage, whether it was happy or miserable. These literary techniques of oxymoron and repetition are employed to communicate the poet's personal message to the reader, whilst also revealing what the author's views are on the topic. Each poet's personal experience with violence and war are also explored within their work. For example, war poet Wilfred Owen's poem Dulce et decorum est is obviously affected by several of his own horrific experiences in war, one being when he was blown up in a trench and left unconscious among dead soldiers. In the poem, he uses sea imagery to portray a gas attack in war, describing a man under a green sea, floundering, and drowning in the gas. This graphic imagery used by Owen is so confronting and unexpected because it enables the audience to easily visualize and understand the suffering of a soldier in a gas attack through the comparison to the ocean. Similarly, in Blake's poem London, the hapless soldier's sigh runs in blood down palace walls, communicating the notion of soldiers being sent away to die at war and how hopeless and brutal this process is. The sibilance and repetition of the S sound in this quote also adds an uneasy and slightly sinister tone to an already dark sentence. Furthermore, the palace walls in this quote could also be interpreted as the churches, supporting Blake's aversion for the traditional church and suggesting that they are complicit for the violence of war. This deliberately confronting and graphic language that both Owen and Blake use effectively exposes the reader to the reality of war and how shocking they believe it is. Plath also shares a negative view on war and violence, demonstrated in The Munich Mannequins, with the lines, thick Germans slumbering in their bottomless stoves and down shoes for a polish of carbon. The polish of carbon refers to the carbon gas chambers used to exterminate Jewish people and to the Holocaust, and how negatively she feels about it, especially when describing Germans as being thick and having bottomless stoves or pride. These sections of the poem are affected by Plath's personal guilt with the Holocaust and are demonstrated by her use of this language. By directly or indirectly experiencing violence or war in each of these poets' own lives, their poems are visibly affected, and all three poets do so to warn the reader of the negative effects of war. Both William Blake and Wilfred Owen also weren't happy with the church and organized religion and the impact that it has over society. This can be seen in London by William Blake, as he describes the church as blackening and that it appalls, with the colour of black being used as a symbol of corruption and evilness, clearly demonstrating what Blake's thoughts are about organized religion. Wilfred Owen too shares a similar perspective demonstrated in Anthem for Doomed Youth, in which he says of the soldiers, "No mockeries now for them, no prayers, nor bells." This quote suggests that Owen believes that religious rituals or practices are a joke and are completely unimportant when in war. In this quote, Owen also suggests that the prayers and bells of the church glorify the deaths of the soldiers when in reality they die as cattle.
created using Powtoon.